Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 236. Dead Men Tell No Tales. Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know if you saw what happened today. Jeffrey Epstein is dead. And just to fill everybody in, if you're wondering about it, Jeffrey Epstein is the man that knew everything. He was the man at the center of the entire Pizzagate scandal. He was the man at the center of the entire crises of the deep state. He was the man that knew information on everybody. And he was arrested, I don't know, 3 to 4 weeks ago, and he tried to commit suicide 2 weeks ago, and now he's dead today at the hands of his own suicide. Does anybody believe that? Well, that's very interesting. Jeffrey Epstein had dirt on pretty much everybody. He was the man that ran a child sex ring. That the media's try to paint him as somebody that was for his own nefarious reasons, his own sexual desires, his own lust. But the fact of the matter is, and this is something that you'll never get around, is he was at the hands of the deep state. He was the man that was essentially presenting young women, 13, 14, 15 years old, 16-year-olds, to very, very powerful men. And it's not even just that, by the way. I think it goes a lot deeper than that. He was presenting grown women in terms of Victoria's Secret, aspiring models through one of his Wexall or whatever his name was, the CEO of Victoria's Secret. He was one of his compadres, and he would have rich, powerful parties with rich, powerful men and a whole bunch of beautiful, aspiring models and actresses, and they would be in mansions with lots of cameras and lots of empty bedrooms and lots of alcohol. And so he had dirt on pretty much everybody. Well, anyway, he got arrested like 4 weeks ago, and essentially he was guilty of a lot of really bad things with young girls/women, and he was going to jail forever. Well, anyway, he had information probably on the Clintons, probably on lots of prominent politicians. The media tried to make it out that he had information on Trump. Who knows? I don't know. But he's dead now, and he died yesterday or last night at the hands of apparent suicide. He was taken off a suicide watch yesterday by his doctors. That's what the media has reported. Let me tell you something. I'm a physician, by the way, and I'm not trained in psychiatry. But bottom line is, if you are the most wanted man in the history of planet Earth in terms of the deep state, and you try to commit suicide 2 weeks ago, you don't get taken off a suicide watch. You don't, which means there must have been some meddling there. That decision needs to be investigated. The other thing is this: you don't take the cameras off of him. You never take the cameras off of him. And so if the cameras were taken off of Jeffrey Epstein, well, then there are people within the justice system that are complicit with the death of Jeffrey Epstein. And so I'm going to present this to you. By the way, everybody will think this is morbid, but there's been more morbid things that have been released in the history of mankind. If they don't release the video of Jeffrey Epstein killing himself, then he didn't kill himself. He was murdered, and he was murdered by the deep state. And oh, by the way, everybody that was in the jail that night needs to be arrested, and they need to be waterboarded and tortured until they tell the truth. Because here's the deal. There's no way there weren't cameras in his room at that point in time. And if the videos have been destroyed, or like somebody turned the cameras off, or like, I don't even think you can turn the cameras off these days. But if somebody turned the cameras off these days, everybody that was in the jail that day is complicit in the crime of killing somebody who knows something on pretty much everybody. And I think that's it. Jeffrey Epstein, I think, was murdered. But bottom line is, unless, of course, they show the video of him committing suicide, and it needs to exist. And so you're like, oh, you're morbid and you're horrible, and why do you need to see that? I need to see that for several reasons. And so you think I'm morbid and horrible. Well, the death of Saddam Hussein was online. That's morbid and horrible. The death of Gaddafi was online. Oh, that was morbid and horrible. The death of a lot of people are online. When Ceausescu and his wife Sophia were killed on Christmas Day at the site of a firing squad. Oh, that's still online. You can go look at that. When tyrants and people that are responsible for espionage and sedition, the death of a nation, when they're killed, you need to know what the circumstances were, because if they were killed by somebody other than themselves, that means there's a lot of players in this which need to be ferreted out. And there's a lot of players in this which need to be ferreted out, go to trial, and oh, by the way, they probably deserve the same ending as Jeffrey Epstein. And so the death of a man that knew something about everybody, and everybody that's complicit with him, everybody that's done crime with him, has been blackmailable for as long as they've been complicit with Jeffrey Epstein. If they've been blackmailable, they are probably guilty of sedition. They're probably guilty of espionage. They're probably guilty of things against the United States of America. That's treason. And I think that's probably what the death penalty was like created for. It's not for these thugs on the street. It's not for the serial killers. It's not for the death penalties for those who will manipulate the chains of government to enslave their fellow man. And so Jeffrey Epstein, he was killed by that system, I suspect, unless, of course, they're willing to release video on him hanging himself. If they don't release that video, then I will for sure believe that he was probably killed by the deep state. That video needs to be released. It will be horrible, it will be macabre, but it will also be necessary to the closure of this case. And oh, by the way, is it the closure of this case? They have a lot of pictures of a lot of people with a lot of women, or young women, or girls for that matter, which need to be investigated as well, and that may be coming to fruition. But dead men tell no tales, and Jeffrey Epstein's not talking because he's dead. And oh, by the way, who was he associated with? These people need to be dragged in, and they need to be questioned, and they need to be questioned under hot lamps. That's how they need to be questioned. And so Jeffrey Epstein's dead, and dead men tell no tales. But and by the way, I'm going to say this, and just think about this. If we don't hear anything else about this other than Jeffrey Epstein's dead and there's no more media reporting, you know there's something to it, because there's something much deeper than a sick man with some weird sexual desire that committed suicide. There's a lot of people that were complicit in Jeffrey Epstein, and he entrapped a lot of people. And so the bottom line is, for the health of our nation, for the health of the world, for the health of other nations, we need to find out who was complicit with Jeffrey Epstein and who has blackmailable information. So this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like or subscribe, get the Mass, and pray the Daily Rosary. God bless you.